Hey there. The AI training video you're about to watch was intended to be released after my second devlog for Silstream, which I'm currently working on. As in, I literally intended on having the learning cook in the background while I edited it. Things ended up getting out of hand, and I had enough fun to release it right now, so enjoy. So, how do selves in how do selves in Silstream learn? That's the question that we're going to answer right now. That I will talk about in my devlog, but let's go over it really quickly. Also, for the record, I have a clicky keyboard. You will hear it click and clack and all sorts of noise. I'm sorry, I need a new one, but here we are in the Silstream pre-alpha, as you guys won't see it for a bit, but we have a lot of our guns, which are instance created objects. In fact, I think I have one right now, yeah. But the Sylph version is called the DGubby, which has 10 rounds and pretty bad accuracy. But if we go over here, we have some basic movement testing cubes. Some cubes for testing speed from the first iteration of the game. And up here, this little guy is our manager. So if we go over to the script, you can see a lot of code that basically collects the information about all of the Sylph agents, lets them run their test, and then grades them, decides which ones get mutated, which ones don't, which ones get saved to a file, which ones don't. And so the tests themselves are actually quite simple. It's just 400 frames, or about, I don't know, what is that? 6 or 7 seconds. And if they hit it, they get a lot of score. If they aim at it, they get some score. And if they don't look at all, they get punished. There's a bit more than that. There's like reloading penalties, aim down sights penalties, but that's more or less the gist. So all you have to do to start a trial is walk up to this guy and press E, and they'll turn to you, and you can see they're working. Okay. So here we are back in Silstream. Currently I have the Archon script hijacked to load from the save file of each of the generations as I go through them. So we'll start with the 0th one, which is basically chosen from a whole bunch of randomly generated ones. I like these because they sometimes shoot and sometimes reload. It's not incredibly obnoxious. They don't spam it. They're not flailing around too quickly. So I felt it was pretty good. It's about -26 when some of the ones I was generating were -400, which is actually kind of impressive. Talented in the wrong way, but yeah, not much going on, but nothing bad per se. It's a good starting point. So here's a question for you. What comes after 0? And if you're me, that would be 5. Joking aside, a lot of the earlier generations are figuring out the best variables because they change a lot depending on how I've tweaked the AI and their inputs and their outputs and the phase of the moon and so on. So it's a lot of finicking at first, and then it's even more finicking. But let's see 5. As you can tell, they're slightly better at aiming at the target, not by much. But you'll notice they completely lose that sometimes. That's a modality which I'll talk about in the devlog, but basically they are state machines and neural networks at the same time. I'm very proud of it. They suck, but you can see a lot more improvement. They're starting to aim at the target and home in on it. And oh, they get better, I promise. So here we are now with generation 10, and it's fairly similar. They actually in some ways get worse with generation 10 to 5. But despite that, the score does improve. And the reason is they take in slightly randomly generated numbers to give them an edge when they do PvE, or I guess EVP, but it can make them worse in terms of just performing consistently. And also their consistency of performance is increasing because these targets have a sword, so I can't demo, but they will teleport if shot. And that means that they can't just do the same thing over and over again. They have to actually adapt and figure out how to aim. Which they still haven't. Okay, here we are with Generation 20. If I can go up this fucking ramp. Oh my god. Help me! Okay, here we are. Yeah, Generation 20. Not an insane amount of changing. They're slightly more prone to shooting on occasion. Never at the target. They love aiming at the target, but shooting it, no. That's taboo, but yeah, minor improvements. I'll sometimes change the way that scoring is weighted to give them pressure, like I think I do at Generation 25, but as it stands right now, they're just kind of vibing and rapidly toggling sights. But I can demo the teleportation. It's actually quite fun to kind of aim labs yourself, but yeah. So currently I have loaded, I gotta check actually, Generation 45, and I bet you're wondering what happened to all the other ones. Well, not much is what happened, but 45 is very, very unique in that I think it went down to a score of -9 up, technically, but that's especially noteworthy because at this point in time they're hanging around the, what would that be, mid-30s mark, so I have no idea what happened, and it took me a few tries to recreate it, but occasionally, if they rub their brain cells together hard enough, they can kind of pop off, which made this massive dip. But again, you're seeing the modality that I mentioned before, where it's dependent on them activating that output neuron that activates the input neuron. And yeah, it's like this as well for quite a bit, but we will make a breakthrough. Probably skip a few more, actually. Before we hit our breakthrough generation, I want to highlight 60 just as sort of like an increment where you can tell that I have once again made it tighter for them, the scoring, and so they are much less prone to flail. They still will. It's still a slow process, but they definitely do improve significantly every 10 or so. They're not showing it right now, I promise they do. I pinky promise. So here we are at Generation 80. The Generation 70 still played good for the first 10 seconds and then stopped when I recorded, so I'm just skipping them. But as you can see, they've mastered the art of no longer spinning and aiming directly at the target with some head bobbing and some toggling of sights, but... You fucker, you're making me look bad. Anyway, sometimes they behave well. They don't shoot anymore. I don't know why. They don't get penalized for shooting. There is no, like... There's nothing that is punishing them for not taking the shot. They have just taken up pacifism and are getting really good at looking at the target. Like, extremely good. I think they get down to absolutely no penalty whatsoever and still don't fucking shoot. So here we are at Generation 90, which is, as far as I'm aware, the furthest generation I have saved. I think one of the progress ones might be better, but I'm going to leave them on while I talk about why it is they do this and also what I plan on doing about it. God, I need to make these fucking walls bigger. Anyway, so I need to add step up. I still haven't done that yet. This is not Generation 90. Fuck. Oh wow, would you look at that? Generation 90, we're here. Yeah, as you can tell, there is basically no point at which they aren't pointing exactly at the center of the target. They've won. They win the video game. Even if I... Okay, I was gonna say even if I shoot it, they keep going, but I guess not. Anyway, so why do they do this? The answer is each mutation, which everything but the best self will mutate, is almost a step in a random direction for their behavior. Sometimes it's good, most of the time it's bad, which is why I have 4 mutations for every generation. So the chances of them being good are fairly high, and the chances of them reverting if it's bad is also fairly high, because I have safety nets. But what do I do about this? The answer is, as with most things, is breeding. I need to essentially train a self to be very good at shooting, and then I just take elements from both, I average them out, and I pray that everything works. I haven't done that yet. I'll have to do some coding on it, but honestly, the reason I've kept these bastards, even though they have rejected the ways of violence, is because they are incredibly good at what they do. Anyway, yeah, this is an open source project, so if you want to fuck around, the link is in the description. I don't know, see if you can beat me. It's probably not that hard. Anyway, yippee!